17. Black R&B legends who were blacklisted that you didn't know about. What if the music you love was built on the voices of geniuses who were silenced, erased, or blacklisted for daring to speak the truth from soul to R&B? Some of the greatest black legends faced invisible walls that tried to crush their careers and rewrite history. They weren't just fighting for fame, they were fighting for freedom, creativity, and justice. In this video, we uncover the shocking stories of 17 black R&B icons you didn't know were pushed out of the spotlight. Watch until the end, hit like and share if you believe their truth deserves to be heard. Esther Phillips. Esther Phillips stands as one of the most compelling and emotionally fearless voices in American music, a woman whose artistry carried both the fire of survival and the elegance of a seasoned storyteller. Born Esther Mae Jones in Galveston, Texas, she stepped into the spotlight astonishingly early. By her mid-teens, she was already touring nationally after impressing Johnny Otis with a commanding presence far beyond her age. Her first major success, Double Crossing Blues, soared to the top of the R&B charts, signaling the arrival of a singer with sharp interpretive instincts and an unmistakable tone. Over the next decades, Phillips refused confinement to one musical lane. She moved with intention through blues, country, jazz, and soul, bringing emotional clarity to every lyric she touched. Her rendition of Release Me became a crossover triumph, bringing her back into mainstream visibility and earning praise for its controlled intensity. Unlike many performers who sought consistency, Phillips embraced evolution. Each album felt like a new chapter written with courage, even when the industry preferred safer, more predictable paths. Yet that same determination sometimes worked against her when marketing departments struggled to categorize a voice too versatile to be neatly packaged. Have you ever listened to one of her later recordings and felt like she was speaking directly to you? During the 1970s, Phillips delivered some of her most daring work, including a stunning interpretation of Gil Scott-Heron's Home is Where the Hatred Is, a performance that revealed her gift for confronting truth without flinching. She earned Grammy nominations, critical respect, and the admiration of fellow musicians who recognized her rare authenticity. Though her professional journey was marked by setbacks and industry misunderstandings, she never compromised her artistic identity. Esther Phillips left behind a body of work defined by honesty, emotional intelligence, and a refusal to fade quietly. Her legacy remains a reminder that real artistry isn't measured by chart positions, it's measured by impact that lingers long after the final note. Billy Paul. Billy Paul occupies a rare place in American music, a vocalist who blended jazz sophistication, soul warmth, and R&B finesse into a style that felt both intimate and cinematic. Born Paul Williams in Philadelphia, he grew up surrounded by rich musical influences, absorbing everything from Sarah Vaughan to Nat King Cole. Those early inspirations shaped the silky timbre that later became his trademark. Before gaining mainstream recognition, he spent years sharpening his craft in clubs and on radio, performing alongside household names while developing a unique approach that married emotional storytelling with technical control. His breakthrough came in 1972 with Me and Mrs. Jones, a song that captured the vulnerability and tension of a forbidden romance. The single climbed to #1 on the Billboard Hot 100 and earned him a Grammy for Best Male R&B Vocal Performance, solidifying his place among the defining voices of the era. The track's arrangement, carried by lush strings and restrained intensity, remains one of the most memorable recordings of the Philadelphia soul movement. Yet Paul refused to repeat formulas. His subsequent albums explored social themes, jazz textures, and experimental arrangements, proving he valued artistic exploration over commercial predictability. Throughout the 1970s, Paul continued crafting thoughtful, genre-blending projects under the guidance of producers Kenny Gamble and Leon Huff. Songs like Am I Black Enough for You demonstrated his willingness to address identity and self-reflection even when such topics complicated radio play and marketing strategies. While not every release reached the same chart heights as his signature hit, his catalog remained rich with depth, nuance, and conviction. Billy Paul's legacy endures not only through his celebrated ballads, but also through his steadfast commitment to musical integrity. He stands as a reminder that true artistry lies in daring to sing beyond the boundaries others set. Donny Hathaway. Donny Hathaway remains one of the most revered vocalists and composers in American music. A musician whose depth, elegance, and emotional clarity shaped the fabric of 1970s soul. Born in Chicago and raised in St. Louis, he showed extraordinary promise early on, studying music on a full scholarship at Howard University. His classical training combined with gospel roots created a sound that felt both scholarly and spiritual. Before recording his own albums, Hathaway worked behind the scenes as an arranger, pianist, and songwriter, contributing to projects for Curtis Mayfield and producing sessions that demonstrated his remarkable understanding of harmony and orchestration. His debut album, Everything is Everything, 1970, introduced listeners to a voice warm enough to comfort and powerful enough to stir unrest. The Ghetto became a standout track, reaching number 23 on the Billboard R&B chart, blending social atmosphere with hypnotic grooves. Hathaway's collaborations with Roberta Flack, especially the duet Where Is the Love Grammy Award in 1973, cemented his place among the era's most respected performers. His holiday classic, This Christmas, released in 1970, eventually became a seasonal staple, earning new generations of listeners each year. Do you remember the first time his voice made you stop and really listen? Hathaway's live recordings further showcased his genius. Live 1972 is often ranked among the greatest concert albums in soul and R&B history. His interpretation of You've Got a Friend revealed a talent for transforming familiar songs into deeply personal statements. Yet despite the admiration he earned from musicians, critics, and devoted fans, the industry often struggled to categorize him. His interests in jazz textures, socially aware compositions, and complex arrangements sometimes placed him outside commercial expectations. Even so, Donny Hathaway's legacy remains towering. His music, intimate, honest, and refined, continues to inspire singers, musicians, and listeners who value emotional authenticity. He left behind a body of work that proves brilliance doesn't require spectacle. It only requires truth. Fontella Bass. Fontella Bass stands as one of the most compelling and versatile vocalists of the 1960s, a singer whose power and precision helped shape the sound of modern soul. Born in St. Louis in 1940, she grew up in a musically gifted family. Her mother, Martha Bass, was a well-known gospel singer with the Clara Ward Singers. Surrounded by church harmonies and rich vocal traditions, Bass developed a commanding voice early on. By her teens, she was performing on the St. Louis club circuit, accompanying the great Little Milton as a pianist and vocalist. Her skills quickly caught attention, and she soon signed with Chess Records, where her life changed forever. In 1965, Bass recorded Rescue Me, a single that became a landmark in American music. It climbed to number 1 on the Billboard R&B chart and number 4 on the Hot 100 million copies. Bass continued releasing music throughout the 1960s and early 1970s, including the singles Recovery and I Surrender, both of which charted on Billboard's R&B lists. Later, she broadened her artistic reach by collaborating with the Art Ensemble of Chicago, exploring experimental jazz, a bold move that showcased her creative fearlessness. Though her mainstream spotlight dimmed over time, her influence never faded. Rescue Me remains an American classic, and Fontella Bass's voice, bold, bright, and unmistakably her own, continues to resonate as a testament to artistic resilience and undeniable talent. Betty Wright. Betty Wright was a trailblazing voice in soul and R&B whose influence extended far beyond chart success. Born in Miami in 1953, she was immersed in music from an early age, performing with her family in church ensembles that nurtured her extraordinary vocal control and emotive delivery. By age 15, she had transitioned into the secular music world, recording for local studios and steadily building a reputation for versatility and charisma. Her breakthrough came at 17 with Clean Up Woman 1971 in between number 2 on Bill and number 6 on the Hot 100, selling over 1 million copies, and Solid Right's voice carried an unmistakable combination of strength and vulnerability. She could infuse playful humor, tender confession, or raw confrontation into a single phrase, giving every song a dynamic, lived-in energy. Her subsequent releases, including Babysitter and Let Me Be Your Lovemaker, highlighted her talent for storytelling through melody, while her sharp understanding of arrangement and production distinguished her from contemporaries. Wright also became a champion for independence in an industry often dominated by powerful labels, later founding her own imprint, Miss B Records, to ensure creative and financial control over her work. Beyond performance, Wright devoted herself to mentoring young artists, guiding singers like Jennifer Lopez and shaping future generations of R&B. Her 1988 hit, No Pain, No Gain, Reath. Millie Jackson. Millie Jackson is often remembered as one of the most audacious voices in R&B and soul, a performer unafraid to confront taboo subjects with wit, honesty, and fiery emotion. Born in Thompson, Georgia in 1944, she moved to New York City as a young woman, quickly immersing herself in the bustling nightclub scene. Early in her career, Jackson distinguished herself not just by her vocal power, but by her bold storytelling style. She used spoken-word monologues within songs to explore themes of love, betrayal, and female empowerment, an approach that was revolutionary for the 1970s. Her 1974 album, Caught Up, showcased Jackson at her most daring, blending traditional soul with frank narratives about relationships, infidelity, and personal agency. Tracks like If Loving You Is Wrong, I Don't Want to Be Right became emblematic of her ability to transform personal pain into universal resonance. Jackson's unapologetic presence challenged industry norms. She often faced backlash for content that pushed societal boundaries. Yet these controversies only heightened her appeal to fans who craved authenticity. Many record labels were cautious about distributing her more provocative material, and some retail chains even restricted access to her albums, making her music a rallying point for freedom of expression. Have you ever heard a singer tell a story so raw it felt like they were speaking directly to you? Jackson's influence extended beyond music. She became a cultural icon, paving the way for future female artists to address real-life experiences with humor, directness, and resilience. She experimented with disco funk and later contemporary R&B, always maintaining her distinctive voice and candid storytelling. Even as trends changed, Jackson refused to dilute her artistry for commercial convenience, proving that longevity in music is rooted in authenticity. Today, Millie Jackson is remembered not just for her powerful vocals, but for her fearless defiance, her willingness to speak uncomfortable truths, and her enduring legacy as a pioneer who made audiences laugh, cry, and think all within a single song. Bobby Womack. Bobby Womack remains a lesser-known figure in R&B history, yet his story illustrates the high cost of crossing unspoken boundaries in the music industry. Born and raised in the United States, Womack emerged as a talented singer and songwriter who initially worked under the shadow of legends. His career took an unexpected turn when he married Barbara Cook, the widow of iconic soul singer Sam Cooke. While their union was deeply personal, it became a lightning rod for controversy within a tightly controlled industry. At a time when labels and managers maintained strict influence over artist legacies, Bobby's choice to remarry placed him at odds with unseen power structures that dictated who could thrive. Womack's artistic endeavors were abruptly interrupted. Record labels began shelving his work, delaying album releases indefinitely, and quietly limiting his visibility on tours and promotional circuits. Even media coverage seemed to vanish, with interviews and planned television appearances mysteriously canceled. His talent, though undeniable, became secondary to the politics surrounding him. Behind the scenes, insiders circulated whispered warnings about unauthorized airs, and Womack was effectively erased from public attention, a victim of the complex interplay between legacy, wealth, and control in the soul music world. Despite these obstacles, Woolmack continued to pursue his music privately, recording heartfelt material that revealed a dedication to craft over acclaim. Though few of his works reached mainstream audiences, those who discovered his recordings noted a depth and sincerity that matched the greats of his era. Bobby Woolmack's story is a reminder that talent alone does not guarantee success, especially when confronted with systemic power and societal expectations. His journey underscores the resilience of artists who strive to create despite forces determined to silence them, leaving a quiet but enduring mark on the history of R&B. Marlena Shaw. Marlena Shaw is celebrated as one of jazz and soul's most sophisticated voices, blending sultry phrasing with incisive social commentary. Born in Chicago in 1942, she was immersed in music from a young age, performing in local clubs while developing a style that combined jazz elegance, blues depth, and R&B warmth. Shaw's breakthrough arrived with her 1969 album, The Spice of Life, which highlighted her dynamic range and emotive delivery. She earned widespread recognition for her rendition of California Soul 1970, a track that remains a classic, seamlessly fusing infectious grooves with socially aware lyrics, establishing her as an artist capable of both technical mastery and heartfelt storytelling. Despite critical acclaim, Shaw encountered obstacles that limited her mainstream exposure. In the early 1980s, a dispute arose when a commercial campaign used her voice but replaced her image, effectively erasing her identity while promoting a product. Her insistence on authenticity, demanding that her artistry not be divorced from her image, led to the cancellation of numerous live performances and promotional engagements. Record labels also pulled albums from distribution, citing restructuring, effectively silencing her in mainstream channels for extended periods. Yet Shaw never compromised her principles or artistry, insisting that her music remain a true reflection of her soul. Beyond commercial challenges, Shaw continued to captivate audiences with live performances and recordings that conveyed intelligence, humor, and emotional nuance. Her later albums, including Acting Up 1978 and Take a Bite 1979, further showcased her versatility, blending funk, jazz, and contemporary soul. Marlena Shaw's legacy is defined not only by her unforgettable voice, but by her courage to resist manipulation, advocating for artistic authenticity at every turn. Her music endures as a testament to individuality, skill, and the quiet power of insisting on being seen and heard exactly as she wished. Ann Peebles. Ann Peebles is a defining voice in soul music, renowned for her rich emotive vocals and unwavering authenticity. Born in St. Louis in 1947, Peebles grew up surrounded by gospel music, which profoundly influenced her phrasing and emotional depth. She moved to Memphis in the late 1960s, immersing herself in the city's vibrant soul scene, and eventually signing with High Records, where she collaborated with legendary producer Willie Mitchell. Together, they crafted timeless tracks that combined sultry vocals with sophisticated arrangements, culminating in hits like I Can't Stand the Rain, 1973, which became a signature song reaching number 6 on the R&B charts, and What Peebles' rise coincided with the disco and pop explosion of the late 1970s and early 1980s, a period during which labels pressured artists to conform to new trends. She was asked to modernize her image, experiment with dance-oriented production, and alter her style to fit market expectations. Peebles firmly refused, insisting that her music remain genuine, stating, "If my soul isn't in my music, I'm not me." Her decision led to albums being shelved, tour dates canceled, and recording sessions abruptly interrupted, with younger, more commercial artists brought in to replace her tracks. Despite these obstacles, she maintained her artistic integrity, refusing to compromise for fleeting commercial gain. Have you ever admired an artist more because they refused to change for popularity? Ann Peebles' influence resonates through contemporary soul, R&B, and even hip-hop, as her tracks have been widely sampled and covered by new generations. Beyond the charts, her legacy is one of courage, self-respect, and dedication to authentic expression. Peebles' music continues to captivate listeners with its emotional honesty and impeccable craft, proving that true artistry is measured not by compliance, but by the strength to stay true to one's voice. She remains a beacon for artists who value soul over spectacle, authenticity over conformity. Gene Chandler. Gene Chandler, famously known as the Duke of Earl, is a legendary figure whose smooth baritone and charismatic stage presence left an indelible mark on soul and R&B. Born in Chicago in 1931, Chandler's musical journey began in local gospel and doo-wop groups, eventually leading him to solo stardom. In 1962, his breakout single Duke of Earl topped the Billboard Hot 100 and beyond his chart-topping hits. Chandler was a courageous advocate for equality within the music industry. In the late 1960s, he publicly refused to perform in segregated venues, demanding that black audiences be allowed to sit in front sections alongside white attendees. This stance often led to cancellations, last-minute poster changes, and restricted access to tours and recording sessions. Despite the subtle blacklisting and the so-called soft blacklist that circulated internally, Chandler maintained his integrity, refusing to compromise his principles for commercial expediency. His fight for fair treatment extended to behind-the-scenes advocacy, ensuring that fellow artists were recognized and respected in an industry that often exploited talent without regard for race. Chandler's influence persisted through decades, inspiring countless performers with his commanding voice and dignified persona. Hits like Rainbow 65 and Just Be True demonstrated his versatility and commitment to evolving with musical trends while staying true to his roots. Gene Chandler's career exemplifies the intersection of talent, resilience, and moral courage, reminding us that the legacy of an artist is measured not only in chart success, but in the impact they leave on culture, society, and the generations that follow. Ike Turner. Ike Turner is often remembered through controversy, but his role as a groundbreaking musician and producer cannot be overstated. Born in Clarksdale, Mississippi in 1931, Turner was a prodigy mastering piano, guitar, and saxophone while absorbing the deep Delta blues that would shape his sound. In 1951, he recorded Rocket 88, a song frequently cited by historians as the first rock and roll record blending blues riffs with energetic rhythms that would define an entire genre. Beyond performing, Turner excelled as a bandleader and arranger, mentoring future legends and pioneering recording techniques that elevated R&B and early rock music. Despite these contributions, Turner's career suffered as personal controversies dominated public perception. His tumultuous relationship with Tina Turner, which became widely publicized through her memoir and interviews, overshadowed his creative accomplishments. Yet the industry's response extended further. In the mid-1980s, television networks blocked documentaries highlighting his influence. Albums he produced for emerging artists were shelved, and some R&B histories were pressured to minimize or omit his name. These measures contributed to a kind of professional erasure, muting recognition of a musician whose innovations shaped the course of modern music. Have you ever thought about how the music industry selectively shapes which legacies survive? Still, Turner persisted. He continued performing, recording, and collaborating with younger artists, leaving an indelible mark on funk, soul, and even hip-hop, as his work was widely sampled in later decades. Today, historians recognize him not just for the controversies, but for his pioneering contributions, the technical precision of his recordings, his influence on band arrangement, and his ability to merge blues and R&B into the earliest forms of rock and roll. Ike Turner's story is a testament to both the fragility and endurance of artistic legacy, showing that true talent often shines despite societal attempts to silence it. Rick James. Rick James, born James Ambrose Johnson Jr. in Buffalo, New York in 1948, is remembered as one of funk's most electrifying and unapologetic innovators. From his early days performing in local bands to his explosive breakthrough in the late 1970s, James combined high-energy rhythms, infectious grooves, and provocative lyrics to redefine what funk could be. His 1981 hit, Super Freak, became a cultural phenomenon topping R&B charts and later gaining renewed popularity through sampling in contemporary hits, demonstrating his enduring influence on generations of musicians. Despite his commercial success, James faced significant resistance from the mainstream entertainment industry. Following the provocative live performance of Super Freak, networks and sponsors reportedly pressured labels to reduce his exposure. Promotional segments were cut without explanation, and planned television appearances were canceled, effectively limiting his visibility. In 1983, a lawsuit involving copyright infringement was overshadowed by a highly publicized scandal involving drugs and allegations of sexual misconduct, further marginalizing him from mainstream media. While these events painted a sensationalized picture of his personal life, they also masked the magnitude of his creative genius and contributions to funk, R&B, and pop music. Beyond controversy, Rick James's artistry was groundbreaking. He brought bold theatricality to live performances, merged funk with rock and soul, and cultivated a style that was as flamboyant as it was musically sophisticated. Albums such as Street Songs 1981 showcased his ability to combine danceable rhythms with social commentary and romantic storytelling. Today, James's influence resonates in hip-hop, R&B, and contemporary funk, proving that while scandals may temporarily cloud an artist's reputation, genuine talent endures. Rick James remains an emblem of fearless creativity, a man who refused to conform, and a funk legend whose music still commands attention decades later. Sly Stone. Sly Stone, born Sylvester Stewart in Denton, Texas in 1943, is celebrated as one of the most innovative figures in American music. As the leader of Sly and the Family Stone, and to the socially conscious grooves of Family of Stone's music, not only entertained, but also conveyed messages of racial unity, gender equality, and social awareness. He assembled one of the first racially integrated mixed-gender bands in mainstream music, creating performances that were both energetic and revolutionary for their time. However, Stone's commitment to authenticity came at a professional cost. In 1975, he rejected a sponsorship from a major liquor brand, unwilling to let commercial interests compromise his artistry. Soon after, he was quietly removed from multiple tours, and DJs supporting his music faced retaliation. Technical failures during interviews and television appearances, along with the mysterious disappearance of recorded sessions, further contributed to his gradual removal from public attention. The industry's subtle blacklisting silenced his voice, despite his undeniable talent, reflecting the high price of challenging entrenched norms. Have you ever admired an artist more for standing up to powerful pressures? Even as mainstream opportunities dwindled, Stone continued to create music privately, living a life misunderstood by many. His influence, however, remained profound, reverberating through generations of funk, R&B, hip-hop, and pop artists who sampled, covered, and drew inspiration from his groundbreaking work. Sly Stone's story is a testament to courage, innovation, and resilience, the idea that true artistry cannot be measured solely by charts or media attention. Decades later, his voice message and fearless experimentation continue to inspire musicians and listeners who seek music that challenges, uplifts, and transforms. Marvin Gaye. Marvin Gaye, born in Washington, D.C. in 1939, is one of the most influential voices in soul and R&B, known for blending lush melodies with deeply personal and socially conscious lyrics. Initially gaining fame in the 1960s with Motown hits like How Sweet It Is to Be Loved by You and duets with Tammy Terrell, Gaye's artistry evolved into a platform for social commentary. His seminal 1971 album, What's Going On, addressed issues such as war, poverty, and environmental degradation positioning. Gaye not just as a performer, but as a cultural prophet. The record reached #1 on the Billboard Pop Albums chart and became one of Motown's best-selling releases, proving that music could simultaneously be commercially successful and politically meaningful. Despite his artistic achievements, Gaye faced industry resistance. Motown executives initially hesitated to release What's Going On, fearing its political messages would alienate audiences. Concert tours were curtailed and radio stations sometimes limited airplay of tracks that addressed controversial topics. Gaye described these obstacles in his personal diary, noting that while he was not physically attacked, he felt strangled by the industry's invisible hand. These pressures exemplify how black artists who spoke truth to power often risked marginalization, regardless of talent or popularity. Gaye's later works, including Let's Get It On 1973 and I Want You 1976, explored themes of love, intimacy, and vulnerability, showcasing his versatility and emotional depth. Tragically, his life was cut short in 1984, but his influence remains pervasive. Artists across genres R&B, hip-hop, pop, and neo-soul cite Gaye as a foundational inspiration. His legacy demonstrates that artistic courage, whether addressing social issues or personal expression, can leave a lasting impact. Marvin Gaye's music continues to resonate, reminding listeners that soulful honesty and societal awareness are timeless qualities in artistry. Sam Cooke. Sam Cooke, born in Clarksdale, Mississippi in 1931, is widely regarded as the king of soul, whose smooth vocals and songwriting genius bridged gospel, R&B, and pop. Rising to prominence in the late 1950s with hits like You Send Me and Wonderful World, Cooke possessed a voice that combined technical precision with emotive power, captivating audiences across racial lines during a period of intense segregation. Beyond performance, Cooke was a visionary entrepreneur. In 1963, he founded SAR Records, giving black artists the ability to retain copyright and control over their work, a revolutionary move in an industry dominated by exploitative contracts. Cooke's commitment to empowerment extended to civil rights. He publicly supported Martin Luther King Jr., financially backing marches and events that advanced racial equality. These actions, however, drew unwanted attention from powerful industry figures. Airplay for his songs was reduced on major stations, and television opportunities were withdrawn effectively, placing him on an informal blacklist of risky artists. His advocacy for artistic independence and social justice, combined with his enormous talent, positioned him as a threat to the status quo, illustrating the dangers black musicians faced when challenging systemic control. Have you ever thought about how many pioneers were silenced before their impact was fully recognized? Tragically, Cooke's life was cut short in 1964 under suspicious circumstances, just as he was preparing to launch new projects that could have further empowered black musicians. His death left unresolved questions and a void in the music world, but his influence endures. Cooke's blend of melodic sophistication, heartfelt storytelling, and social consciousness continues to inspire generations of singers, songwriters, and civil rights advocates. His legacy is a reminder that true artistry is inseparable from courage, and that those who fight for creative and social freedom often leave the most lasting mark on history. Sam Cooke remains a beacon for musicians who seek both excellence and justice in their work. Throughout history, countless black artists have faced barriers that went far beyond talent or ambition. From Sam Cooke's fight for artistic control to Marvin Gaye's struggle to have his voice heard on social issues, these legends risked everything to stay true to themselves. They were silenced, erased, or blacklisted not for lacking skill, but for challenging an industry and society that feared their power. Their stories are reminders of resilience, courage, and the ongoing fight for recognition. Which of these artists' battles resonates most with you, and why do you think the system still resists true equality today?